Hi, sixth grade. Welcome to lesson 2, the final lesson of Parakut Alef. By now, you have already submitted the translation for Psukim Daled through Yud to the end of this parak, and you have submitted it on Google Classroom. You used your Milon on page 7 to help you with that. Please have your Milon open to page 7 because we are going to be doing a little bit of work on there as well. Before we get to the work, let's review our translation of the Psukim. So let's dive right in. Pasuk Daled. Vayomer Moshe. Moshe said to Paro, Ko Amar Hashem. This is what Hashem said. Kachatzot halayla. Around the middle of the night. Ani yotze b'toch Mitzrayim. I will come out in the midst of Egypt. Now the Ani here is Hashem. Moshe is speaking in Hashem's name. Pasuk Hey. Umet kol b'chor be'eretz Mitzrayim. And every bechor, which means not oldest, but firstborn, every firstborn will die in the land of Egypt. Mi bechor Paro hayoshev al kiso, from the firstborn of Paro who sits on the throne, meaning he is next in line to the throne, the prince. Ad bechor hashivcha asher achar harei chayim. From Paro all the way down to the firstborn of the maidservant who sits at the millstone. A millstone is where you would take wheat and grind it. That's called the mill. Grind it into flour. So the maidservant, this one is clearly not talking about a Jewish maidservant because we know from subsequent psukim that Bnei Israel are not affected by this makkah. So what this is meaning to say is from the highest of the social stratus, right, to the lowest of the social world. Both the prince and the maidservant, Hashem is going to treat them all the same, or at least will treat their firstborns the same. So from Paro's firstborn to the maidservant's firstborn, v'chol b'chor behema, and also all of the firstborn of the livestock, of the cattle. Now, quick side note about these little Lego pictures. Anything that's in black text is a direct translation of the psukim. Anything that's in gray is something that the illustrators, the artists who made this, added on their own. Now, it's very funny because sometimes the things that they add on are questions that address questions that the Mefarshim would have themselves. So, for example, you see here in this one, they have Paro saying, oh, but all my livestock are dead, right? When did they all die? Between a few of the Makot, there was Dever, there was Barad, right? They died through a bunch of them, but we actually know from the Psukim, because we read closely, that what happened in Barad, not all of the livestock in Egypt are dead. Some are still alive. Which ones? The ones that were brought inside the house by those Egyptians that feared God. Right? So even those livestock, even those cattle, now their firstborns are going to die as well. So this actually is not accurate. Not all of the livestock are dead. Maybe all Paros are dead, but not all the livestock in Egypt are dead. Okay, so this is Hashem through Moshe is warning Paro. Every single firstborn, from the highest born to the lowest born to the animal, they're all going to die at some point in the middle of the night when God comes out to get them. Continuing in the psukim. V'haita tza'aka gedola b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. And there will be a great cry, a great scream in all the land of Egypt, asher kamohu lo nihayta, like there has never been, v'chamohu lo tosif, and there will never be one more than it. Right? This will be the greatest cry, the greatest screaming of pain in all the history of Egypt. Pasuk Zayin, Hashem says, Ulechol b'nei Yisrael, and for all of the Israelites, lo yacharatz kelav lishono, not even a dog will bark. There will be no noises made where the Jews live in Goshen. L'meish va'ad behema, from human to animal. Right? This is to contrast the silence of where the Jews lived to the screams of the Egyptians. Why is Hashem creating such a contrast? Why are the Jews going to be completely silent? Not even the dogs will make any noise, while the Egyptians are all screaming out in pain and sadness from Makat Bechorot. Hashem says it very clearly in Pasuk Zayin, Leman, we've seen this word before, so that, Teid'un, so that you will know, Asher Yafle Hashem, that Hashem has made a separation a difference, a distinction, bein Mitzrayim uvein Yisrael, between the Egyptians and between the Israelites. Pasuk Chet. Vayardu kol avadecha ela elai, and all of your servants, Paro, all of your servants will come to me, to Hashem, v'hishtachavu li, and they will say to me, or maybe this is Moshe speaking on his own, actually, that they'll come to me as the messenger of God, and they'll say to me, Lemor, what will they say? Say ata, leave, you, v'chol ha'am, asher beraglecha, and all of your nation that are here on their legs with you. Right? Not only will you let us leave, you will be begging us to leave. So therefore, Moshe continues, V'acharei chen etzei, and then I will leave. Now, Vayetze mi'im Paro b'chari'af, and he left Paro in a great anger. And again, you have this little in gray, the thought bubble of Paro. I thought I was never going to see his face again, right? Because at the end of Perek Yud, Paro kicks him out and says, I never want to see your face again. And Moshe says, yep, you're never going to see my face again. So this is actually one of those instances where the Mefarshim ask the exact same thing. And Rashi says, wait a second, how is Moshe talking to Paro here in Yud Aleph when at the end of Yud, Moshe said, I'm never going to see your face again? So Rashi tells us things are a tiny bit out of order, that this nevuah right here, the nevuah, the warning for Makat Bechorot, Moshe actually had in front of Paro before he left. Meaning Paro says, get out of here, I never want to see your face again. And Moshe says, yep, you're never going to see my face again. Then he gets this nevuah, which he immediately says to Paro, and then he leaves. Just a little side note, not anything deeply important. That's why we're not doing it inside. I just thought it would be interesting to note that the artists, again, of this Lego Bible noticed that, and our wonderful Mefarshim have an answer for everything. And let's finish up the Perek. Moshe has left Paro, and Hashem continues to speak to Moshe personally. Pasuk Tet, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Hashem says to Moshe, Lo yishma aleichem Paro. Paro will not listen to you. Again, we know this over and over again. L'ma'an revot moftai be'eretz Mitzrayim. Paro won't listen to you. L'ma'an, so that I can harbe revot, so that I can multiply my signs, my wonders in the land of Egypt. Right? Hashem is causing Paro to not listen, so that Hashem has the ability, the excuse, the reason to do all of these makot and make his name well known over the land of Egypt because of all these amazing, wondrous things Hashem is doing. Pasuk Yud. Moshe ve'Aharon asu et kol hamuftim ha'ele lifnei Paro. Moshe and Aaron performed all of these wonders before Paro, all the makot we've been talking about. Vayachzek Hashem et leiv Paro, but Hashem hardened Paro's heart. V'lo shilach et bnei Yisrael me'artzo, and he did not send bnei Yisrael out from his land. Now, I was actually curious why this Pasuk Yud is here, because we've seen this idea over and over again. I looked in some of the Mefarshim and they all say the same thing. It's not being repetitive for no reason. It's basically a summarizing pasuk of the entire makot. Before we get the final makkah, we get the warning, and then we have this final reminder of, this pattern of behavior that Paro is refusing to listen, etc., etc. All right. If you would please open your packet, your choveret, to page 7, you're going to do a little bit of a closer reading of one of the psukim. The pasuk that describes the azhara, the warning of Makat Bechorot to Paro, gets compared to the description of the Makkah later when it actually happens. And the Mefarshim, particularly Rashi, noticed something very interesting, which we are going to look at as well. So let's just remind ourselves, what happens in Pasuk Hey that we read today with Perek Yud Aleph? This is where Paro gets the warning in Perek Yud Aleph. See, he is currently being warned about the Makkah, about Makat Bechorot. And if you read this pasuk carefully, I want you to tell me who is going to die in Makat Bechorot according to the warning in Perek Yud Aleph. And there's 3 answers. So take a moment to read and tell me who those 3 people are. Umeit kol bechor be'eretz Mitzrayim bechor Paro hayoshev al kiso ad bechor hashivcha asher achar harichayim bechol bechor behema. So who are the 3 that are going to be affected according to the azhara, the warning? It is 1, the firstborn of Paro, 2, the firstborn of the maidservant at the mill, and 3, the firstborn of the cattle. This is all in the warning of the Makkah. Now, if you were to jump ahead to the middle of Perek Yud Bet, which we're not up to yet, but the middle of Perek Yud Bet is where the Makkah actually happens, and the description of the Makkah actually happening is slightly different. Read through this pasuk and see if you can find the difference when it comes to the Makkah describing, the Torah describing who the Makkah affected. There is one difference. I'll read it along with you. Vayehi b'chatzi halayla, it was the middle of the night. V'Hashem hika chol v'chor ba'eretz Mitzrayim, and Hashem struck all the firstborn of the land of Egypt. Mi b'chor Paro hayoshev al kiso. That one looks familiar, from the firstborn of Paro. Ad b'chor hashvi asher bebeit habor, to the firstborn of the prisoner or the captive who was in prison. Beit habor is like Beit Sohar, like a prison. V'chol b'chor behema, and all the firstborn of the cattle. So who are the three? When the Makkah is actually being described, who are the three that get affected by this Makkah? Firstborn of Paro, firstborn of the prisoner, and the firstborn of the cattle. So obviously we can clearly see which one is different. It's the middle one. The warning of the Makkah says the firstborn of the maidservant is going to be affected. The actual execution of the Makkah, it says the firstborn of the prisoner, any political prisoners or prisoners that the Egyptians have taken, right? For like foreign prisoners, captives, or something like that. People from other lands. So what's going on here? Which one is it? Is it the firstborn of the Shivcha? Is it the firstborn of the Shvi? Rashi actually says it's both. And here in Perek Yud Alef, Rashi not only comments on Bechor HaShivcha, the firstborn of the maidservant, but he actually also comments on Bechor HaShvi. Even though it comes from Perek Yud Bet, Rashi comments on it here in Perek Yud Alef. So if you turn to page 8 in your packet, we're going to do those two Rashis right now and answer some questions, and we will understand why Hashem is affecting the firstborn of the maidservants and the firstborn of the prisoners, the foreign prisoners, as well as all the other firstborns in Egypt. So let's take a look at this. The first one, Ad Bechor Hashvi. This is the description actually from Perek Yud Bet. When the Makkah actually happens, Rashi chooses to comment on it first. And he asks his question very clearly. Lama laku hashvuyim. Why were the foreign prisoners affected by Makat Bechorot? Why were prisoners of other religions or of other nationalities, why are their firstborns also being killed? Kidei shelo yomru, so that they could not say, Yiratam tav'a elbonam, that our gods wanted revenge for our captivity. Vehevia puranu tel Mitzrayim, and they brought this evil upon Egypt. Essentially, what was going on here? Egypt had foreigners in their captivity, and if the firstborns only of the Egyptians started dying, then these foreigners could say, oh, look at that, the Egyptians are being punished because they took us captive, right? They're holding us as prisoners. Our gods are punishing the Egyptians, right? And that would be like taking credit for punishing the Egyptians. Hashem didn't want other gods to get credit for punishing the Egyptians. So Hashem also made the firstborns of these people die so that they couldn't take credit for it as well. So that is why the prisoners got affected. So quickly take a look at these three questions on page 8. Just pause the video. After I'm done translating the questions, please answer them and then come back to the video and we will go over them together. Question 1, Al Ezu Sheila Onet Rashi. What question is Rashi asking? He says it very clearly. 2, Al Pi Divrei HaPsukim, according to the words of the Psukim, Ma Ratza Hashem Shekulam Yedu. What did Hashem want everyone to know? So I need you to go back and look at the Psukim we did today, Psukim Daled through Yud. Find a quote from these Psukim or just some kind of understanding. What did Hashem want everyone to know? I'll give you a hint. Remember, it's that keyword of Lama'an Teidun, so that all would know. And question 2 bet. Eich ze ozer lanu lahavin et teshuvat Rashi. How does this, Hashem's reasoning, how does it help us understand Rashi's answer? Pause the video Please answer these questions. And we're back. Question 1. What's Rashi's question? Rashi's question is, why are the firstborns of foreign captives going to be killed in Makkah Bechorot? Or why were they killed? Question 2, Alef. What did Hashem want everyone to know? So you'll see I brought a quote from Pasuk Daled that you read today. Ani yotzei b'toch halayla. I, Hashem, will be the one who goes out in the middle of the night and causes this plague, not anyone else. If you remember very clearly, this is stated in Magid, actually, in the Haggadah, where Hashem, the Haggadah quotes a midrash that says, Ani v'lo malach, Ani v'lo saraf, Ani v'lo acher, where Hashem's, it's a midrash saying that Hashem is the one, not an angel. Ani v'lo malach. I, Hashem, and not an angel, did these miracles, these plagues. Ani v'lo saraf. I, and not a saraf is another type of angel. And the last line is Ani v'lo acher. I and no one else. No other power in the world. Right? Hashem wants to make it very clear that he is the one and only power that made this happen. And therefore, he has to preclude or eliminate any other possible explanation for Makkah Bechorot. If there's any other explanation that exists, Hashem has to get rid of it. He has to make it exclusively known that it was exclusively Hashem who caused this to happen. So, to bet, how does this help us understand Rashi's explanation for why the foreign captives were also affected? Hashem and not any other power caused Makkah Bechorot, right? It's the Ani, exclusively Hashem. Next Rashi, on the bottom of page 8. It's the Rashi Dibor HaMatchil. I'm just blocking it a little bit here. Dibor HaMatchil ad Bechor HaShivcha, the firstborn of the maidservant. Okay, this is in our Perek, in Perek Yud Alef that we're studying right now. This is from the warning. So again, Rashi asks a very similar question, the same question. V'lama laku b'nei hashvachot. Why were the maid sons affected by Makkah Bechorot? Again, these are clearly not Jewish maidservants, because we saw later on in Perek Yud Alef that Hashem is going to make a separation between the two. We saw that in Pasuk Chet. So Rashi asks, why are these maidservants' sons going to be killed, their firstborns, by Makkah Bechorot? And Rashi tells us a very simple answer. Sha'af heim hayu mishabdim bahem. Because they too enslaved the Hebrews. There were almost like two levels in this social atmosphere of slaves. There were like the higher up slaves and the lower up slaves. And the Jews were the slaves of the slaves, meaning they were the lowest of the low that you could get. So even these maidservants at the millstones were the ones, they also enslaved the Jews. Usmechim b'tzaratam. And were happy when Bnei Yisrael had tzara, had tsar, suffering. So they also had to get punished. So one question here at the bottom of page 8. Madua laku b'nei hashvachot bizman Makkah Bechorot. Why were the sons of these maids affected during the time of Makkah Bechorot? Please take a moment to answer that. So why were they affected? The answer is because they also enslaved Bnei Yisrael and rejoiced in their suffering. They needed to be punished. This one has nothing to do with Hashem being the only person who brings the Makkah, but it's more of a midah keneged midah. If they harmed Bnei Yisrael and took joy in Bnei Yisrael's suffering, then they too deserve punishment. All right, and with that we have finished Perek Yud Alef. Today was a little bit more than yesterday, but that's fine. I know you guys can handle this. Please complete the check for understanding, the form on Google Classroom. It'll be very similar to the questions that are in your choveret. We're not doing that like we would normally do in the classroom, because then I wouldn't be able to check your work. So I'm choosing instead to do those kinds of questions on a Google form so I can see how you're doing. Again, please study the Shorashim from Perek Yud Alef. Only the Shorashim. It does not have to be the words on the bottom, because you have a quiz on Friday. You will also be having a quiz on the Shorashim from Perek Yud Bet, which will start tomorrow on Wednesday. So remember, it is a double Shorashim quiz. So take the time now to study for Yud Alef so that you're not overwhelmed when you need to start studying for Yud Bet. Happy Torah learning, everyone. Have a great day.